Hi, I'm Liz, and I healed from chronic fatigue syndrome. And I've come back to share my story and the stories of others who have healed. Nothing on this channel is medical advice nor meant to contradict what you yourself have discovered to be true. But I hope by sharing our stories, we can inspire you on your journey. I'm so excited today to be talking with Laura from Spain. And she's going to be sharing with us her recovery story from chronic Lyme and many other debilitating conditions. Laura, I'm so glad we can talk today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to ask what your purpose is for sharing your story with me today.
My purpose is just helping other people to know that there's a way out of chronic illness, that there's so much hope for all those people that are suffering right now, because I was there. I was there. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to ask before we get into how you healed, what was your life like before you became chronically ill?
I was a very active person, very creative. I was very social. I hanged out with my friends and I studied art in Barcelona. And my life was pretty like a normal life, of a very active person who wanted to live life to the max. So, yeah. Yeah.
And so, what was your onset then for getting sick?
Since being a little girl, I remember not feeling safe in my environment. I mean, it's not that I had like a really traumatic childhood, but I felt like there was something wrong in my household. My parents were always bickering and they were not getting on really well. So I always felt like I had to walk on eggshells. Bullying at school, and my first depression came at 19. So I remember that my whole life I've been dysregulated. Even though I was very creative, I was having lots of creativity and I was having fun and I was doing many amazing things. I still was feeling that there was something wrong with me in my nervous system, so to speak.
So, when did things really crash for you in terms of your health? You had mentioned 19 was when you experienced depression.
Right. After that, I had several crashes with anxiety. Whilst I was living in Barcelona, I was having lots of stress at work, and my lifestyle was a little bit messy. So they had to put me on antidepressant back then in 2008. And well, that was good. I did well with that. But then in my early 30s, I had a UTI, and my great practitioner put me on an antibiotic, and that was like the last drop. I mean, that was the beginning of my perfect storm. They gave me like a fluoroquinolone. They are well known for being very aggressive with the nervous system. And I remember taking those antibiotics and feeling really, really bad after that. I was having huge panic attacks, huge insomnia, you name it. I mean, it was really, really, really scary. And all the symptoms of the UTI didn't go away. So then I had to, begin with all the tests, all the medical doctors, that route that we all know very well, right?
Yeah, and that's not the first time I heard antibiotics. I think it's called being floxed or something, but
Right.
there's some harsh antibiotics that some people don't react to them, but some people do. And you're definitely not the first person who I've heard that from. Yeah, so it sounds like things started to unravel from there. What were some of your key symptoms after this experience with the antibiotics?
Massive anxiety. I couldn't sleep at night. I was having all the UTI symptoms all the time without any bacteria. I was having dizziness, vertigo when I was walking. And I began to really feel like there was something weird with my digestion too. And I remember reading on some forum about mercury amalgams, and I had one, and that had to just go away. So I went to a dentist and they did like a safe protocol to remove that. But my system was very taxed that it couldn't deal with that. And boom, that was like the very last drop. And I began to have like multiple chemical sensitivities, chronic fatigue, seizures. It was really, really, really scary. Really scary. I ended up bedbound and also wheelchair bound after 8 months of that procedure with my dentist.
So this was in your early 30s?
Yeah, I remember I was 34.
Okay, wow. And I actually did get the amalgams removed myself. I researched it a lot and they had a vent, but I was in a better place physically when I did that. But yeah, you are still exposed to a little bit of mercury, and in those doctor's offices there's probably lots of chemicals, and as you said, your nervous system was already taxed. So that's just something, this is not medical advice we're giving, but that's something to keep in mind for people watching. You probably will read something and be like, I have to get this out of my body, I have to treat it now. But just to be sure that your nervous system and your body is in a place where it could handle that.
Right.
Because not everything comes without potential side effects.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you were wheelchair bound and bed bound during this period. Did you try the functional medicine route? Did you try things like supplements? Did you try medications? What were some things that you tried in those days?
Well, I remember I started with the Western medicine route with doctors, and I had many tests, and they were all saying that I was doing fine, that my blood test was okay, but I was feeling like a hot mess. I mean, I was feeling really, really bad. So I felt really discouraged and super frustrated. And I began to just search for answers in forums, and I came across chronic Lyme disease. And there was a person back then in that forum that told me, hey, your symptoms look like chronic Lyme. And I was like, chronic what? I didn't ever heard about that disease in my whole life. And I was like, okay. So I began to research, and I understood that functional medicine maybe was a better route for me. But the treatment was so very expensive, and I had to even start a crowdfunding campaign to get funds to pay for my treatments and the diagnosis and everything. And it was absolutely crazy. And that was just at the beginning of everything. I mean, because, just getting the diagnosis was not going to save me from any suffering, you know?
Yeah, it's so interesting because it sounds like you got your friends and family involved for this crowdfunding campaign, and you probably thought at the time that this was going to be the answer. You spent all your money, you spent your friends' money on this. So it sounds like you did try this route for a little while.
Yeah, I was taking herbs, the herbal remedies, the herbal antibiotics. I was taking all kinds of supplements for chronic Lyme, but I was not feeling really better. I mean, I was maybe improving a little bit, but my health was not improving like the way that I wanted. So I felt like that there was something missing in that equation.
So when did you have an epiphany that led you to the route that would ultimately get you out?
It was again from people, it was again from a forum. I was talking to an American lady, and she told me, have you heard about neuroplasticity? She had chronic Lyme too. And I was like, no, I didn't. And she talked to me about DNRS back then. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. But I was like, okay, I'm just put it back in the back burner, and let's see what happens with the treatment. So it took me like several months to understand that there was something missing, and that maybe my brain and my nervous system were involved with that.
Yeah. So did you actually pull the trigger and go forth with the NRS?
Yes, it was the only program that I knew back then. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. So with the funds from the crowdfunding campaign, I bought the DVDs. And I remember starting the program the 1st of January 2018. And I was just watching the DVDs thinking, oh my God, that's me, with the testimonials. That is me. That's me my whole life. So I understood everything. And I was crying. I was getting very emotional, thinking, oh my God, this is the way out. This is the solution.
Yeah. So can you describe your first experiences with the NRS, and did you see any improvement?
Well, I was very diligent with my rounds and with the pops and redirecting all those negative thoughts that I was I was binging on negative thoughts. Oh my God, I was very, very negative back then. And I was like, okay, if this is my job to get out of this, I'm going to just give it my all. So I remember starting with the rounds and getting, again, very creative because I am a very creative person. And I was like writing down and creating all those future visuals and really, feeling all the good chemicals back in my body. And I felt that my energy was increasing. So the first breakthrough that I experienced was leaving my wheelchair in only 1.5 months with DNRS.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. And just for people watching, I know most of you by now do know about different brain retraining programs and their rounds. And that includes, I think there are about 9 or 10 steps, and you're talking to your nervous system. And then the last 2 steps, there's a past and there's a future visualization. And as Laura was saying, you make the feelings come alive in your body by describing times you felt or imagining yourself in the future, feeling like you're thriving, doing things you love. And yeah, it can have a powerful effect on our physiology, not just the nervous system. Because when our nervous system is in a good place, then we can get more energy and the symptoms lower. So it sounds like you had a good initial experience with it. Did you have any setbacks with DNRS?
Oh, yeah, a lot. It was all ebb and flow all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Many, 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 many setbacks.
All right. So was DNRS the only thing you did, or were you like, okay, there's something else missing here? What was the case for you?
I was all in with the NRS because I was sensitive to almost everything and all the treatments. So I had to just make a leap of faith and just to keep going with the neuroplasticity. So when those moments were happening, I was like, okay, I need to just keep going with my rounds and all the pillars of the program. And that's what I did. And also believing that there was something bigger than me that was just holding me, having faith.
Yeah. DNRS isn't faith-based, but I know a lot of people incorporate their faith into this nervous system work and a higher power. Yeah. So was DNRS the only program you did, or?
I stuck with the universe for almost 3 years, but I was getting coached by Dr. Kathleen King. She was my coach back then. She was amazing. And she was like, okay, you've been doing this for a long time, but I think that there's something missing here. And I think that you have lots of stuck trauma from your childhood. So maybe you need some somatic experiencing. You can work with a practitioner, maybe. So that's what I did. And that really made a huge difference because I was not able to get out and about in life. I was getting triggered still by emotions, by people. So yeah, that really helped me to go back to my body and feel my emotions and integrate them. Yeah.
So DNRS, it's more of a top-down, using your mind to create good sensations within your body. But somatics, I guess, it's more body up to brain. Can you kind of describe it a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. As you said, DNRS can be like more top down, but in order for us to heal and to transform, we need to do the opposite route too. So we've been living up here in our heads forever. So going somatic is connecting again with the sensations, the emotions in the body, and in a titrated way for sure, because we can be still very afraid of what we're feeling. So I think that a practitioner here can be very beneficial to just do the titration. But yeah, overall, it's just going back to your body and send messages to your brain that, hey, this vessel is a good space and it's completely safe.
So you were working with Dr. Kat to help you go deeper on your rounds. She wasn't a DNRS coach. She was an outside coach.
Yeah, she did DNRS too. So she had the foundation of the program, but she had like a more wider, may I say, spiritual approach with neuroplasticity. And that really resonated more with my view too.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So I just know because I've interviewed Dr. Kat that she ended up creating her own primal trust program. and it combines the top down and the bottom up somatics work. So when did you go further down that path?
Okay, I was following her and keeping in contact with her, and I loved the way she was working with people and coaching people. So she started with another program called, oh, I don't remember the name exactly. So it was like very similar to Regulate Level 1 in Primal Trust, but it was like a pilot run. So I did that little bit of a program with her, and then it grew. It became bigger and bigger, and then this is how Primal Trust was born, like 2 or 3 years ago.
So you were in that initial cohort. I think the first level one, it was creating calm.
That was the name.
Yeah. And now the new level one, I looked through it. Yeah, it's very comprehensive. Yeah.
She's fantastic. I mean, she understood that we had also to have the opposite route and to get somatics and the vagus nerve toning. And it is great. And I felt really comfortable working with her because she was really important for me in my recovery. She taught me how to not fear fear, which is a big, big component with this. So, because if you're fearing your own fear, you're stuck again in the chronic stress response all the time.
And I know from going through level 2 of her program myself that there is a big part on self-discovery and living your values. So can you talk about your journey going deeper into your values and living authentically?
Yeah, well, that really started early on when we were coaching together because she was teaching me, hey, okay, I know that you have all those sensations, symptoms in your body, but can you go outside and live your life through the things that you love doing, even with the symptoms? Can you live like that? So I understood the concept, and I was really looking for all the things that I love doing and that I have just stopped doing because of illness, because of chronic illness. So I began to go to concerts. I began to learn again how to play drums. I began dating a guy. So I was feeling like more alive, so to speak. So I began really living by my values back then. So when level 2 Primal Trust came, I started it and I understood in a deeper way how to implement those values, how to grow an even bigger adult personality, which I was missing many years ago. And I understood that that's very, very important because our nervous systems know when we are living by our truth or not. And that in itself can heal us and transform us very much.
Yes. And it's something that is starting to be talked about now. Dr. Kat is one of the people spearheading that. Many people, before we got ill, we weren't just pushing ourselves and dysregulated. We weren't living authentically. We weren't necessarily pursuing our passions. We were putting other priorities based on what we thought it meant to be a good worker or a good person above that truth in our hearts. So I do want to ask a question that I think people might have. Well, when you tell me to go out living my life and I have a chronic illness, I'm just going to crash, because maybe people have tried to go to a party or a concert before and they had a really bad experience. So can you give people listening or watching rather some idea how you're able, with a debilitating chronic illness, while you're healing from that, how you're able to experience a new thing, a new hobby in the midst of symptoms and things like that?
That's a great question. That's a great question. In my opinion, what I did was really using my tools and go with that in a titrated way. For sure, I was not going to, go to a concert for 5 hours or to be there jumping and drinking alcohol, so it was.
You weren't in a mosh pit.
No, no, for sure. So I was there and if I had to go to the toilet to do a round, if I had to remove myself from a situation, I did. That's what I did. And I used my tools And I had lots of self-talk like, hey, Laura, this is okay. I know you're feeling all of this, but can you just manage the emotion right now? If you can just deal with the emotion, the heightened emotion, it could be fear, it could be anything, that's still your window of tolerance. In my opinion, the point where you feel that you are going out of that window of tolerance is when you cannot deal with those emotions. And most of it is fear. So if you can use your tools for that, you're going to find out that there's a bigger threshold there to stay in the situation most of the times.
And that's really an interesting perspective, because previously we might have thought, oh, I'm just judging it based on symptoms, but this is also tuning into the emotional component that is so key for our nervous system and how our bodies are able to handle physical activity and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So how many years was, I guess you had periods of anxiety and depression? You still look like you're very young. I would have said you're 32 right now. So how many years was it from your crash till your recovery?
Well, it took me almost 3 years and a half to get like a 90% of my way of living, of my life back. And I'm still working on emotions. I'm still working on trauma. I'm still, this is, in my opinion, a lifestyle. So for me, there's no ending point with this. And I embrace it. I'm like, okay, I know that I'm still working on some things. Right now, I'm having something hormonal. I am 41. So you know that when you turn 40, things start to just change, and that's normal. So I'm dealing with that, and I am dealing with it from a very different perspective because of all the tools that I know. But yeah, it took me like 3 years and a half of just pure ebb and flow, going to the depths of my darkness and all those core beliefs and all that stuff that I've been thinking all of my life, and to really understand that that was the core of it. That was the core of it, truly.
Yeah, my journey was about 3.5 years too. And I also did DNRS. And then I later discovered Primal Trust to get that deeper level of healing on an emotional level. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Kat. Yeah, so I know that you are actually now one of the mentors in Dr. Kat's program. What made you decide to pursue that?
Well, this started with coaching with her back in the time. She was like, Laura, I think that you need to help people. And I was like, there's no way I can help people feeling like this. And she was like, you can. This is your mission. So I started coaching people in Spanish back in 2019 when I was still pretty symptomatic. And I had like maybe one client a month, but people were just curious about neuroplasticity, DNRS. And many people asked me, hey, what the heck is this? I mean, I want to do this and I want to understand the program, but I don't speak English. So I was helping people with that. And I became like bigger, ear to mouth. People were contacting me and I was like, okay, so maybe God wants me to help people.
Yes, I love that. And the best referrals come from when people who really value what you do then share that with their friends. Yeah, and I know Dr. Kat herself, it was mostly word of mouth. Now she has a social media presence, but in the beginning, it was all people telling their friends, telling people in the community, posting it in forums that this stuff is really helping me heal. And that's amazing that you found, it sounds like, your purpose. And beyond your work helping others, can you describe a little bit about your life now?
Now, for the first time in my life, I live alone. I've been living alone for 1 year. I am still playing music. I go to my singing lessons. I love music. I love going to nature. Now I live near my parents that are growing older. And I live a very, normal life, but through my values. I mean, I'm just creating stuff, painting, traveling. I love traveling. Next week, well, this Saturday, I'm going to go to Germany to visit a friend. So I'm just feeling fantastic with that. I feel centered. And that doesn't mean that sometimes I don't feel like I'm going like to, old patterns, because we all experience that. But I feel very authentic right now.
That's amazing. And I know we're just talking about nature, going on a trip, but being able to do these things is huge. But being able to do these things from a place of being centered is a whole different game. And it's something you experience when you go through this hell, and then being able to live life in a new, more authentic way. Yeah, it's hard to describe, but I think some people might know what I'm trying to say. It's like even nature, as you said, just having more of an appreciation for it. Before, I didn't really
Right.
even like nature. And I'm like,
Me
oh, the
neither.
bird, you know? So it's having that greater appreciation. All right. So do you have any final message for people watching this today?
My message is keep going. Know that there's so much hope for yourself, for you, that you have a beautiful nervous system and limbic brain that can be rewired, and to have faith that there's something bigger than you that is controlling what you can't control anymore. So apart from the work that you're doing, apart from the things that you can control, put all the things that you cannot control to this huge force. And it could be God, the quantum field, divinity, whatever you may call it. Just tap into that and feel that you can open up again your heart if you connect with that huge source of amazing love.
That was so powerful. Thank you so much, Laura. That just gave me the tingles. I really appreciate you coming on today. This was such an inspiring interview, and I'm so glad that we could do this.
Thank you for having me and to give me this opportunity to speak about my story. Thanks a lot.
Have a wonderful rest of your evening over there in Spain. That was great. I'm
Great.
excited. Yeah.
Me too. Me too. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care, Laura.
Bye,
Bye.
you too. Bye-bye.